Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be looking at a pistol that may seem familiar to many of you at first glance, or at least it will seem that way. This is the Beretta Model 1951, chambered in 9mm Parabellum, and was manufactured by the Italian arms company Beretta. Now, for many of you out there, you're probably used to seeing the successor to the Model 1951, the Beretta Model 92, which was adopted as the official sidearm of the US military for over 20 years, seen in countless movies, used by endless police departments around the world, and is still a pretty common pistol in today's market. However, we're going to be taking a look at the father of the Beretta 92, the Beretta Model 1951. The 51 is, of course, a semi-automatic pistol chambered in 9mm Parabellum and was Beretta's first lock breech design pistol. It is single action with a crossbar safety and has a standard magazine capacity of 8 single stacked rounds with additional magazines that have the ability to hold up to 10 rounds. Now, after World War II, NATO began to slowly standardize its small arms calibers for practical reasons. It makes sense to have all these nations use the same calibers, which eases supply logistics greatly. The German 9mm Parabellum cartridge, which had been adopted by many European powers already, was popular in guns like the Walthers and the Browning High Powers, which made it a great candidate. Currently, the Italian armed forces had been using the smaller, compact Beretta Model 1934, which was a simple blowback design chambered in 380 ACP. But this now gave Beretta an opportunity to meet newly made market demand for a gun in 9mm. Designers at Beretta came up with the Model 1951, and it was initially adopted by the Italian Navy, the Carabinieri, which are basically the Italian state police, and other law enforcement agencies in Italy. I'll note that it wasn't adopted by the Italian Army at all, who opted for the older Beretta Model 1934, which found it to be compact and more reliable for military conditions. It's not broken, then there's no need to fix it. The 51s were also exported for military use to Iraq, Nigeria, Tunisia, Libya, and about a dozen other countries, thus increasing the popularity for 9mm cartridges. Egypt and Iraq actually built them domestically under license. The one from Egypt was called the Helwan Brigadier, and the ones from Iraq are called Tariqs. Sometimes they're also referred to as Saddam's Berettas. And even though the non-Italian made ones are of lesser known quality, the Tariqs are a little more collectible since they were never imported to the United States officially. There are small quantities that came back to the United States as war trophies after the invasion of Iraq in 2003, but those were technically brought back into the country without permission illegally. To my knowledge, Iraq actually still produces the Model 51, but I could be incorrect here. Iraq in the 1980s imported all the equipment from Italy to mass produce them and pumped them out in pretty large numbers during the Iran-Iraq war, so it was a quantity over quality picture there. Now, the Model 91 was mass produced in Italy from 1956 to the early 1980s and was manufactured in what are called 3 different series, all with various design improvements. The first run of production from 1951 to 1955 used a lightweight alloy frame. They found this to be too fragile, however, after long periods of use, so they replaced it with a steel frame which could handle the 9mm recoil better. In this same period, the third series dropped in 1955, which had a longer slide, and this was to offset the balance from the heavier steel used in the frames. This would be the standard run for the next 20 odd years in Italy. So this particular example of a Model 1951 is from a special batch manufactured from 1975 to 1976 in Italy that used a lightweight steel alloy, and they would eventually incorporate this into the Beretta Model 92 shortly after. I've actually never handled another version of the Beretta Model 51, so I honestly can't say how it feels differently than the others, but in total they're about 31 ounces unloaded, with the magazine included. Taking a closer look at the Beretta, we see the pistol designation right here, Pistola Beretta Caliber 9mm Parabellum, along with the location of where it was manufactured next to the year it was manufactured. On the bottom of the slide is the import mark, which I actually recently discovered, which is actually nicely hidden on the underbelly of the slide. Typically when military surplus pistols are brought into the country, there's some ugly import mark somewhere on the outside that's very noticeable, but they took good care, I think, to actually make this one less apparent. We also have the magazine release on the bottom of the handles, which is a bit awkward for us Americans, but if you've been trained to use it this way, it would become normal after a while. And it also has this crossbar safety switch, which can be engaged when the external hammer is cocked. I'll show you guys here. So right now the safety is on, right? The hammer will not go down. As soon as you engage the safety, the hammer releases. These were designed to be carried and used with a single cartridge loaded with the safety on, of course, but this is a little bit awkward. On the right side of the pistol, you have this lever, and when this lines up with the notch higher up on the slide, you can flip this lever horizontally, which allows the entire slide to come off, much like the Beretta 92s, and from there you can disassemble the entire gun. Now, compared to other Beretta models, the barrel length is about 4.5 inches with an overall length of 8 inches. The Beretta 92, of course, is increased its barrel length to almost 5 inches, I think about 4.9 inches, and had a double stacked magazine compared to the single stacked magazine on the 51. As you can see here, it's just a simple single stacked magazine. So for this reason, the 51 is going to be lighter and have less of a bulky feel to it. Now, these pistols are older, some going back to the 1950s. Spare parts are not as common to come by, and they had a reputation for failing locking blocks. But this shot well. It was accurate enough, and it has a nice, lighter feel to it overall, and it has this, really sleek, nice appearance that I do like in these Berettas. It did jam on me a couple times on the range while putting about 60 rounds through it, so I'm not necessarily going to recommend this as a self-defense gun or something that you would depend your life on. But if you're looking for a range toy and something not as expensive, pick up one of these model 1951s while they're still cheap in the US market. I intend to shoot mine a lot more when 9mm availability eventually increases. But in the meantime, there you have it, folks, the Beretta Model 1951. If you enjoyed watching this video, consider subscribing and letting me know what you think. Thanks, everyone.